I didn't plan to talk about this today, and honestly, for a long time I didn't think I ever would. But after everything that happened, I've learned that silence only protects regret, not people. My name is Peter Whitmore. I am 73 years old. Some of you may remember me from a few weeks ago, and I want to start by saying thank you, because the response to that video reminded me that there are still people willing to listen to uncomfortable truths. But today I need to tell you something I left out then. Something more personal. Something that changed the way I understand love, marriage, and time itself. I need you to hear this carefully, not because it will make you feel better, but because it might save you from a kind of pain that doesn't fade, even after decades. My wife, Susan, and I were married for 41 years. That's longer than many people watching this have been alive. For most of that time, I believed we had a good marriage. Not perfect, but solid, reliable. The kind of marriage people point to and say, at least they stayed together. And for years I thought that was enough. What no one tells you about long marriages is that you can share a house, a bed, routines, and responsibilities for decades and still be strangers in the ways that matter most. Susan died 6 years ago from pancreatic cancer, diagnosed in March, gone by July. 4 months from healthy to gone. And in those final weeks, lying in a hospice bed, she said something to me that I think about every single day. She looked at me quietly and said, "Peter, we wasted so much time being right instead of being close." At the time, I didn't understand it. I felt defensive. We had a good life, didn't we? We didn't fight much. We were stable. We were comfortable. But that was exactly the problem. We were comfortable. And comfortable is not the same thing as connected. For years, Susan tried to reach me in small ways. Not dramatic demands, not ultimatums, just invitations. She would say things like, "Let's take a class together," or "Why don't we go dancing again?" or "Remember when we used to stay up late, just talking?" And every time, I had a reason. I was tired, busy, distracted, focused on work, focused on responsibility. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I genuinely believed we had time. I thought those little moments were optional. I thought the big things were what mattered, being faithful, paying the bills, showing up in emergencies, being reliable. I thought that was love. What I didn't understand was that love is not built in emergencies. It is built in the ordinary moments we choose not to skip. I stopped choosing them, not suddenly, slowly, so slowly that I didn't notice it happening. One missed conversation turned into another. One "not tonight" became a habit. One "will do that later" quietly became never. Susan adapted. She stopped asking. She stopped suggesting. She stopped trying to pull me toward her inner world. She found friends, hobbies, routines that didn't require my attention. We became polite, cooperative, efficient. We became roommates who happened to be married. I told myself this was normal, that this is what long marriages look like, that passion fades, that routine replaces intimacy. But routine is just another word for complacency. When Susan got sick, everything changed. Suddenly there was a deadline. Suddenly, the word "someday" had an expiration date. And in those last months, we talked more honestly than we had in 20 years. She told me about dreams she had quietly let go of, hurt she had carried alone, times she felt invisible sitting right next to me. One night she told me about a trip she had always wanted to take. Scotland? Her grandmother was from there. She had imagined walking through the villages, seeing the land her family came from. She had mentioned it to me, over the years, more than once, and every time I dismissed it. Too expensive, not practical. Maybe later, maybe after retirement. We never went. When she told me this near the end, she wasn't angry. She was calm. That was the worst part. She had accepted, long before she got sick, that I was never going to choose her curiosity over my convenience. I asked her why she never pushed harder, why she didn't insist. And she said something that shattered me. She said, "I didn't want you to do it for me. I wanted you to want to do it with me." That sentence lives in me now. Because she was right. She didn't want obligation. She wanted desire. She wanted to feel chosen. And I failed her in the quietest way possible. Not through cruelty, not through betrayal, through indifference. And indifference, I've learned, is the most dangerous thing you can bring into a relationship. Here is what I understand now, and I want you to listen closely because this matters more than you think. The greatest threat to your relationship is not cheating or fighting or some dramatic collapse. It is the slow erosion that happens when you stop paying attention, when you assume you already know your partner, when you stop asking questions, when you stop being curious, when you treat their presence as permanent and guaranteed. Relationships do not usually die from one terrible mistake. They die from hundreds of small omissions. After Susan died, I found a journal in her nightstand. She had been writing in it for years. Reading it was like discovering a stranger I had lived beside my entire adult life. She wrote about loneliness, about feeling unheard, about moments when I was physically present but emotionally absent. She wrote about sitting across from me while I scrolled on my phone, about choosing work over connection, about trying to reach me and not knowing how anymore. She also wrote about love, about the man she married, about hoping that version of me would return, about waiting. And that is what hurts the most. She waited. I was right there. We slept in the same bed, ate at the same table, shared the same life on paper. But emotionally, I might as well have been on another planet. And the truth is, I wasn't malicious. I wasn't intentionally cruel. I was lazy with love. I believed that not doing anything wrong was the same as doing something right. It isn't. Love requires effort long after attraction fades. It requires curiosity long after familiarity sets in. If you are in a relationship right now, ask yourself honestly when the last time was that you had a real conversation with your partner. Not about logistics, not about schedules, not about problems to solve. A real conversation about who they are becoming, what they are afraid of, what they still want from life. Ask yourself when the last time was that you did something simply because it would make them happy, not because it was expected, not because it was an occasion, but because their joy mattered to you. Ask yourself when the last time was that you looked at them and felt grateful that they were still there. If you can't remember, you are making the same mistake I made. One of you will die first. That is not pessimism, that is reality. And when that happens, there are no do-overs, no postponed conversations, no delayed trips, no unsaid words reclaimed. Susan and I had 41 years, and I wasted too many of them being comfortable instead of connected, being right instead of being close, being present in body but absent in spirit. After she died, people told me I had been a good husband. They meant well, but they were wrong. I was an adequate husband. I met the minimum requirements. I didn't abandon her. I didn't betray her. But that is a painfully low standard. Being a good partner means actively building intimacy, choosing vulnerability, making effort even when it's inconvenient, caring about the things your partner cares about because they matter to the person you love. I didn't do that, and now I live with the regret of knowing that love was offered to me again and again, and I responded with delay. 6 years later, I still think about Scotland, about how little it would have cost me to say yes. A week of time, some money, and it would have meant everything to her. I think about the classes, the dancing, the conversations that never happened, about how often later becomes a lie we tell ourselves to avoid effort. If you love someone, do not wait for the perfect time to show them they matter. Do not assume they know. Ask them about their dreams. Listen without fixing. Say yes more than you say no. Be present, even when you are tired, because one day you will sit alone with memories and realize that love does not disappear all at once. It fades through neglect. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I am telling you this because you still have time. Your partner is still there. You can still choose differently. On my desk, I keep a photograph of Susan from our honeymoon in 1972. She is laughing, squinting into the sun, full of hope. And I see now what I didn't then. Love is not proven by longevity alone. It is proven by attention. Susan was right. We wasted too much time being right instead of being close. Don't waste yours the way I wasted mine. Love the people in your life actively, intentionally, while you still can. And every time, I dismissed it. Too expensive, not practical. Maybe later, maybe after retirement. We never went. When she told me this near the end, she wasn't angry. She was calm. That was the worst part. She had accepted, long before she got sick, that I was never going to choose her curiosity over my convenience. I asked her why she never pushed harder, why she didn't insist. And she said something that shattered me. She said, "I didn't want you to do it for me. I wanted you to want to do it with me." That sentence lives in me now, because she was right. She didn't want obligation. She wanted desire. She wanted to feel chosen. And I failed her in the quietest way possible. Not through cruelty, not through betrayal, through indifference. And indifference, I've learned, is the most dangerous thing you can bring into a relationship.